What is up, and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the path to Altseason. This is one of those essential questions that people commonly ask is, when is Altseason? And I'm going to get into the data to watch for when that could be today. So taking a look first at some of our macro indicators, just so we're caught up on the market. We have fear and greed still in extreme or low fear right now. We were in extreme fear and are now making a series of higher lows, higher highs. So Bitcoin and crypto is having a little bit of a relief bounce. And why shouldn't it? Because November was overall pretty negative. Now, in the past, when we have had pretty bad Novembers, 2022, this bad November signaled the very bottom of the prior cycle before we made a bottom and went up from roughly 16K to 126K. We also had a bad November in 2019. And again, you see in both these scenarios how December was still a little bit negative, but that's about where the bottom was put in 2020. You see there we had a 30% uptick, 2023, 40% almost. And then, of course, we had a couple bad Novembers here in 2018 and 2019. 2018, that was also the bottom of the market. So taking a look at all this together, here's a preview of something we're going to be talking about today. Those bottoms that we were just talking about were right here, the very bottom after the 2017 cycle. 2019, right here. Of course, we had COVID after that. And then, of course, this bottom right here. Now, I've been making the case on this channel that we are not done with this cycle yet. And the reason why is that our typical path to Altseason is that we are right here. And Altseason doesn't truly begin until we start getting into phase 3 and phase 4 behavior. So right now, we are definitely still in phase 1 Bitcoin here. No doubts about that. You see how Bitcoin has been trending up. However, in recent history, we have seen a flip, and this can be seen on the Bitcoin dominance chart as well. If you don't know what Bitcoin dominance is, this is the overall percent of money in the crypto world that is in Bitcoin. So 59.4% of all money in crypto is in Bitcoin. Now, we've seen Bitcoin dominance trending higher and higher since the top of last cycle in 2021. You see that's where Bitcoin dominance last tanked. But now Bitcoin dominance has turned bearish. Excuse my cat feeder in the background. So Bitcoin dominance is underneath its 50-week moving average, and it is right there between the 50 and the 100-week. We can go to our phase 2 cycle chart, which we see right here. And again, these phases can run together. However, phase 1 in the past has stopped when we have gotten to about this point, either phase 3 or definitely phase 4. So phase 2, Ethereum year, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. Now, there is no talks of the flipping happening because it's not that bullish, but you can see Ethereum paired against Bitcoin. We're comparing the market caps. Ethereum's market cap is 0.2 that of Bitcoin. We can go to coin market cap and see that right there, that if you divide 376 billion into 1.85 trillion, that is about 20%. So that is what the 0.2 reflects, and Ethereum is moving positively against Bitcoin. All right, great. We're all on the same page. Awesome. Now, in recent history on this channel, I've been talking about this chart, the large cap chart. And what I did is I took total 3, that's the total market cap outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum, ES, that means excluding stable coins, subtracting others. Others is everything outside the top 10 divided by Bitcoin. So in a nutshell, if you're like, what did he just say? Total 3, which is everything outside these two, excluding stable coins. Remember, that's what that ES is for, right there, excluding stables. So no Tether, that's a stable coin, always has a value of $1, $185 billion market cap. No USDC, that is value of $1. They always have a value of around $1. That is a market cap of 78 billion. And then subtract others. What is others, you might ask? That is everything outside the top 10. So everything outside or underneath Cardano. All those market caps are excluded. So nothing Bitcoin Cash on down. no Tether, no USDC, and we are taking total 3, subtracting that. So we have a bundle of XRP, Binance, Solana, Tron, Doge, and Cardano. Now, most of these coins since 2017 have done decently well, been top performers. Doge was not a 2017 altcoin as much as it was a 2021 altcoin with all the Elon stuff when he's on SNL talking about Doge to the moon. That's a later altcoin. Solana is even a later altcoin as well. Kind of 2021 post 2021 altcoin. It's really been a darling altcoin for this cycle. Binance, that's been around forever. XRP, that's been around forever. Tron, I was lucky enough to get in Tron in 2017 and see some good profits from that. So there is a mixed bag of this, but when we take all those large caps, what we can see here is we have this giant wedge. We have these moving averages, the 200 week moving average, that's the dark blue line, that has been resistance. And you can see that right now there's been some level of support at the 50-week moving average. That's the orange line. I like the monthly. I think the monthly is even better. The 50 and the 100-month moving averages, if we are to be bullish or get into any sort of alt season, I think you can copy this chart and see that alts will do pretty well once we get above that. So here's the 382 fib. I drew a Fibonacci retracement, high to low. If you're underneath the 382, you're under the 50, you are bearish. And on the monthly scale, this is bearish. Now on the weekly scale, it's still holding on to a little bit of bullishness. One of the indicators I like to use, well, there's a couple different ones, but especially the MACD. Overall, this is in positive territory, even though we flip negative. Once this starts to flip positive, whether it stays in positive territory or is in negative territory, that remains to be seen. But overall, we were in a positive trend for the MACD till about here. And now we have a lower high. So now we get to see, is this just a minor correction or can we continue up higher? Now, before I did this video, one of the reasons I wanted to revisit this path to alt season is because there's been a lot of talk out there about the 4-year cycle and Bitcoin being over. Now, part of my hypothesis, my theory, or my outlook on the markets is that I do not believe the 4-year cycle is a factor anymore. Let's reset this macro rainbow chart. And so the 4-year cycle became a thing because there was a top for Bitcoin in late 2013. I believe the top was technically December. I could be wrong. Maybe it's November. It doesn't really matter. But 4 years later, we had a top in December 2017. All right. And then 3 years, 11 months later, we had a top in 21. So, about 4 years, we've had these tops. And then yet again, 3 years, 11 months, there was a top recently in October. And people say, you know what? That's the top. Crypto's done. All right. And I think there is something to be said with how money moves in cycles within the markets, whether it's stocks or crypto. But when I see the log regression, something I've been talking about with you guys is that each time we get these tops, there is a stretch. There is no question that Bitcoin moves within a log regression. That means we get diminished returns or decreased volatility over time. Now, yes, crypto is still very volatile. We've had 20 and 30% pullbacks this cycle. Last cycle, there was a number of 30% pullbacks. This was even bigger. But the cycle before, there was a half a dozen 40% pullbacks. So each cycle, those pullbacks, they get a little bit less, but crypto is going to crypto, and it's going to pull the rug from underneath you, especially when things get a little extended. But the truth of the matter is that Bitcoin does move in this log regression. So we do get these diminished returns over time. But there are a couple factors to say that this cycle is not done topping yet. We can take a look at this log regression, see where these tops are, see when we've been overbought. And even if you take a very conservative perspective, say, you know what? Every cycle we top a little bit lower. Maybe we'll top in one of these orange bands. We never got to one of those orange bands. That would be at low 150K, at high 250K, roughly in there. You see where those orange bands are. Maybe you want to meet in the middle, 200K. All right, great. Why not? We've also not had, I think, the average amount of time play out. So as you see this log regression, I hope this screams at you that Bitcoin is being stretched over time. All right. I'm making the case to you that there is really no more 4-year cycle, that we have this stretch. The x axis is time. We see that here. The y axis is our log scale, factors of 10. And we get stretched in a log regression. I mean, we even see it right here. In the beginning, there was not a 4-year cycle. We had a top in the middle of 2011 and then a top in 2013. Now, wait a second. I was told there's a 4-year cycle. So 2011, 2013, that's about a 2.5-year cycle, 2-year cycle, depending on how you look at it. And last cycle, we had a number of tops. We had the very top right before the halving. Okay, now technically, where is the cycle top? One could argue it's the highest price between the halvings. That technically was March of 24. We had our typical 4-year cycle top here. However, we had Altseason here in April 21. We can go back to Bitcoin dominance to show you that this Altseason, okay, that's when Bitcoin dominance rotates. You see the date at the bottom, April of 21. This is when we had the true Altseason. So again, bringing this all back together, what I'm trying to show you guys is that cycles do not move perfectly within a 4-year span anymore, and that as we go on our path to Altseason, we are about right here. Okay, so that means this cycle will be extending out further. Now, one of the charts I'm going to start showing more in my videos as we go on is the performance of Bitcoin since the halvings. Now, this was that first cycle in 2013, or 2011 to 2013, and you can see how the peak was this many days after the halving. So it says 371 days. Now, 2021, we had 528 days after the halving. Not 2017. 2021, it was very similar in time. But remember, the Altseason came a little bit earlier. Altseason in 2017 was here. Okay, so we do not get Altseason until Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to buy. Altseason comes after the Bitcoin top, and Altseason was after this top here. So we had Altseason as part of the 4-year cycle. We had Altseason a little bit earlier, and I think this time around we're going to get Altseason a little bit later. Now you see, since the halving, Bitcoin has been relatively flat. Now, what could be a couple reasons for our Altseason happening a little bit later? One of those reasons, I believe, is the Shiller-P ratio and the fact that we are in a bubble. Now, everyone's talking about this AI bubble, and so you're like, yeah, we're in a bubble. Anytime we even get little bits of sell-offs, even in the stock market, we get extreme fear coming back, right? Now, bubbles, or markets, I should say, can remain irrational longer than people can remain solvent. That's a common expression. Let me tell you, in the 90s, we knew we were in a bubble this whole time. We even had a similar pullback to that of the tariff scare that we had in April of this year. However, once the Shiller-P ratio got above 40, the market still had a year plus, 400 days plus to go up, and another 25%. You can see where the Shiller-P ratio is at 40 right there. That's early 1999, and we can go to early 1999 right here and see, there we go, let's zoom in on this. We can see that early 99 was about right here, and the market still had another 400 days and 25% up. And so, yes, we are in a bubble, but that does not mean that the bubble is done yet. Remember, one of the things that the Fed is doing different right now is they are switching from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. Now, remember that 2019 comparison I made not too long ago, whereas in 2019, we had one of those Bitcoin corrections, right? You can see that right here. We had a negative November, even December kind of sucked, but then we started the rally, and then, of course, we got COVID, right? And they really pumped the quantitative easing right after. You can see that right here. Let's get rid of the MACD for a second here. But the quantitative easing started after the U.S. central bank balance sheet hit this 100-month moving average. Well, lo and behold, we are at the 100-month moving average yet again. The Fed has stopped quantitative tightening, and they are to soon start quantitative easing. Now, they've already been doing rate cuts, and quantitative easing will be coming back. And whether it's a little bit, a lot of it, that remains to be seen, but we can see that was the great financial crisis. I think we're probably due for something like this right here. But here's the fact of the matter is that after quantitative easing came back, that really helped our crypto portfolios, our speculative tech assets. And what we can do, let's turn this off, we can even overlay our number one altcoin, Ethereum. And let's make that a different color so we can see that pretty easily. So you see Ethereum, there we go. Right there, after quantitative easing started, Ethereum eventually caught up. Now, we've also recently talked about gold. Gold's been doing very well, and there's this other factor to show that when gold tops, Ethereum, let's go to the weekly, Ethereum and a lot of the altcoins start to do very well. Here we have gold doing a double top. Since those peaks, you can see Ethereum starts to do very well. That was the last major gold top. Ethereum did well after that. Is this the top for gold? Might have a little bit further to go. Who knows? But after gold makes a peak and then we get a rotation, then things do pretty well for the crypto world. So I've talked about a couple factors here, how as far as the cycle, I believe there are more comparisons that we are in 2019 rather than in 2021. So going back over this chart, our path through Altseason, right? It has this path ended. Well, I don't believe so. And we can even go to Bitcoin dominance. Let's get rid of Ethereum here for a minute. We can go to Bitcoin dominance and we can see we have not had dominance fall off. We have not had an alt season. However, we have just turned bearish again for dominance. You can see we're under the 50, and we can even add on other indicators such as the MACD to show that overall the trend is overall negative and the momentum has flipped negative. Now, Bitcoin dominance, it might do well in the near term. It could even come back up a little bit, but as long as the overall trend is in a negative direction, that is showing that we are on our way to an alt season, or however big that alt season is, whether that rotation brings us down to the high 40%, the low 40s, we'll see. I have on this chart right here that we had these bottoms, they all match up. So a great alt season would get us to the high 30% if we had a rotation that big. But conservatively speaking, we have this ascending trend line. Maybe we get to the mid 40% as far as an alt season rotation. Now, going back to that log regression I was talking about, we can show this on the chart by just going and measuring out the bottoms to tops. We've done this before. Yes, Bitcoin's on a log regression. Yes, I don't believe we have topped yet this cycle and that we are still on our way to alt season. And here's another data point. Let me get back to the right page here. After we made the highest peak in 2011, we're just going to measure this out, take a rough estimate from the bottom to the top. That was about 750 days. All right, make sure you keep track of these numbers in your head. You can see that this bottom was slightly lower, and bottom to top, this was roughly about 850 days. All right, so we've added 100 days. And then from that 2018 bottom to top, that was about 1,050 days. So if you're sticking with the numbers here, we added 100 days, 750 to 850. We added 200 days, 850 to 1,050. And so just recently, from this bottom to top, we have just hit that 1,050 day mark. All right. Well, that's if we are comparing this cycle to last cycle. And a lot of people fall into this trap with crypto. They like to compare by time scales. And I'm here to say, hold on a minute. The log regression shows us a stretch over time. And so that's if we have the same amount of time. What if we add 100 days, all right, get to 1150, and we can watch the data at the bottom. Well, if we had 100 days, okay, which, I'm in the camp of adding at least 200 to 300, really. If we had 100 days, that would be January of 26. If we had 200 days, roughly speaking, let's get that as close as we can. There we go. That would be in April 26, which would be 5 years from the alt season in 2021. If we had 300 days, let's get that as close as we can. There we go. That would be about the summer of this year, July 26. 400 days, that would be November 26. And you're getting, to that Q4 of next year. So 5 years from this top, 5 years from that top. Guys, I'm not here to make a prediction as to when exactly it's going to happen, but what you cannot deny is that this log regression shows a stretch of Bitcoin's price movement over time. It moves very volatile towards the y-axis early on, but then that volatility diminishes over time. We see that every cycle, these pullbacks, they diminish. We get diminished returns, but we also get diminished volatility. Bitcoin is going to stabilize the more people get into it. All right, so we've made a case for that. But again, this video, I'm here to talk about, are we on our way to alt season? Has anything changed? And so far, I hope you would agree with me that really nothing's changed as far as this path to alt season. We didn't get the classic 4-year cycle, but I don't believe that the 4-year cycle is simply a thing that has to exist all because of the timing of it. Again, if we're watching what happens with the markets, we have quantitative easing coming back into the markets. How much they're going to pump liquidity, who knows? But remember, any monetary policy that is inflationary, and overall that's the global monetary policy, is to be inflationary, that is good for crypto. Why? Because crypto, Bitcoin, there are only so many Bitcoin. I think at most there will be like 23 million or billion Bitcoin. I forget the exact number. But Bitcoin is not inflationary. And so it has this value that's going to, or this total supply that's going to remain the same. Whereas dollars, they can just keep printing and our dollars can just keep being devalued over time. So the global monetary policy is macro inflationary. That is good for Bitcoin. So we have QE coming back. We have interest rates coming down. All right, still coming down overall. That's another factor. Here in 2019, you can see interest rates. Eventually, they had to bring them down to zero. We have very speculative times right now. We are in a bubble, and I dare say this bubble can get even bigger than the dot-com bubble. We'll see what happens, but for as big as the dot-com bubble was, and as much as that changed our lives, I think my gut feeling is that AI is even bigger. It's going to have even bigger impact. So I have a feeling, again, there's nothing to truly measure this by that I know of yet, but we might see the Shiller PE ratio maybe even get into the high 40s. We'll see. So I do believe our bubble has more to go. And so with all that being said, we are right on our way to an alt season. It's not the classic 4-year cycle, but we are on our way. Again, Ethereum, Bitcoin, when we have seen this go from the 0.25 area, which is right here, it's at the 0.5 fib. When we've seen it go above 0.25, this is when we've all had alt season. And you see that massive rotation into Ethereum. Okay, here in 2020, 2021, had a rejection around the 0.25. Again, a rejection, but higher lows, and then boom, we were going up. Even taking a look at the MACD, let's take a look at some strength underneath the hood. You can see overall that strength. Again, watch the moving averages, how they're going up. And even though we had this minor pullback here, it still went further up. Now, overall, The MACD, this has been the time. You see how negative this was for a while, okay? Now we are finally in the positive territory and reversing trends. So this can play out for a while. We'll see when we get that higher low here and start to turn things around. As far as just generally drawing this out, maybe that would time out to a top in April. I'm not here to give you a prediction, but just, general trends. That might be what we see. But we need to see Ethereum, Bitcoin pairing getting above here. And this total 3, subtracting the stable coin, subtracting others divided by Bitcoin, we would want to see this breaking out as well. Now, one of the charts, we're finally getting to this after I talked for 25 minutes. One of the charts I wanted to take a look at is like, you know what, we have total 3. Why don't we talk about total 2? And I was wondering about this as I was drinking my coffee today. It's like total 2 is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and ES excluding stablecoin. So it factors in Ethereum. And I feel like this is important to show this chart. We're going to do the same one for the large caps as well. We'll subtract others. But Ethereum is the largest altcoin. So shouldn't we include that in our discussion? Because remember what I said as we were taking a look at the total 3 chart, Solana wasn't really around in 2017. Dogecoin wasn't big in 2017. It was around. I didn't buy it. I made fun of it. I'll never forget. I was in the gym. Me and the one other crypto guy in my small town. We were the only 2 people I knew investing in anything crypto. And when we saw the Doge meme at a coin, we just laughed at it. And that is pretty stupid on our part. Crypto loves to be ironic. So, anyways, I was like, what if we take total 2? So everything, Ethereum as well, because that's important, then subtract others, and then divide it by Bitcoin, just like we did before. And I was looking at this chart, and just like the total 3 or the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, we do see an overall reversal of trends. You see a bottom here, a higher low here, higher high. We're finally in the positive territory. We also see lower prices, higher strength, so there is some good bullish divergence there. But this is bearish right now, just as far as the price action. We have a lower high, so we're waiting to see kind of a double bottom or a reversal. And so I was just looking at this chart. It's like, okay, what do we have here? We have all these lows that kind of match up here. There's a trend line there. Now, the total 3 chart that I showed you earlier, there was a nice trend line from that 2017 peak, but we don't quite have that for this chart. Maybe if we take it off log scale, we might have one. So let's zoom out here. Do we have any sort of a trend line? Sometimes breaks of the trend. That's something that, people look for macro-wise. If we raise that up to the very peak, I guess you can make that argument as far as off log scale. But, even if we were to just go here, I think that would work absolutely fine if we were to just go here. And let's give ourselves, let's not cheat too much, but let's just put that right here. Okay, when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, wow, we have a giant wedge formation coming up, and what is going to happen, right? There are no certainties. There's only probabilities, but what is going to happen? And I'm sure we're all wondering that. We saw positive strength in the MACD. As far as the RSIs, what do we have on the RSI? The RSI is bottoming out. But as far as very macro trends, I like to take a look at monthly, okay? Look at how the monthly was very overbought here, but we still had much further up to go even as it's coming down. Monthly, very overbought, okay? Again, we had the peak here in the stochastic, and the top came later. So are we going to get kind of one of those deals from the peak? It remains to be seen. And this is my first time looking at this with you guys, so I'm analyzing in real time. We have this RSI just bottoming out lower and lower. Are we getting a reversal of trend? What I will say here is look at the yellow line, okay? As we are above the yellow line, that is very bullish. Here we retested it. That was the top. Look what happened when this chart got above the yellow line. That's when we turned bullish. Okay, we were bearish for a while. We tested the yellow line. That was late last year, early this year. Now we have just gotten above it for the first time. So to me, that's bullish. That's another indicator that we are on our way towards this. Again, what are we looking at? We are taking a look at the total market cap of Ethereum, XRP, Binance, Solana, Tron, Doge, Cardano together. Aside from all the mid caps, small caps, aside from all the crap, and excluding Bitcoin as well. And so we have, that's positive right there as well. What does our MACD show? Does our right there we flip positive, but overall, there's no question about this. This is very negative right now, at least on the monthly. We do have the blue above the orange. That's good. You can see how the blue moving average was under the orange for a while. That's flipped. Maybe we need to go to the weekly here. The weekly overall, that just flipped positive. So yeah, I would say higher low or higher high, probably a higher low. But here's the point I'm getting at is that once we see this, as well as our total 3 chart, outside of Ethereum, once we see these start to break out, that's when all of a sudden you're going to hear that Altseason talk come again. So a lot of YouTubers out there, a lot of people on Twitter, they're saying, 4-year cycle, it's over. All right. I do believe we are in a correction phase, and there's no doubt about it. We are technically in a bear market, but we were in a bear market in 2019 as well. In fact, what was going on in 2019 over here? You can see from that mid-cycle top, 2019, we died, but then we started getting higher highs, keeping this base, okay, some lower highs, and then boom, all right, we shot up. What does the moving averages show here? Yeah, the moving averages, okay, so here 2019, 2020, you break above these moving averages, and then that's when we had our alt season, okay? Here's the moving averages right here. We challenged the 100, came down to the 50. So if we start to challenge the 200 and get above that, then that would be another chart to watch. Another chart, by the way, to show path to alt season. Actually, I didn't realize I was off log. I want to go back. I want to go back to the chart we were just talking about and take a look at it on log scale. Yeah, on log scale, a little bit different, but I think even if we were to adjust it, there we go. Even if we were to adjust it a little bit and include those tops on log scale, it would just stretch the timing out a little bit further, okay? And by the way, what do the dates show here? It could show that we could get coiled all the way to 27. That would suck. Now, I will say, as far as wedges go, that I've seen and drawn out, they usually don't go until the very end. We usually get our answer at least a little bit before. And I do think our answer is coming in 2026. So I've shown you a lot of data. And overall, again, what I'm trying to relay to you is that we are still on our way. And we have not had our answer yet. If those charts break down, if Bitcoin dominance keeps going up, we have our answer, okay? That the 4-year cyclists, they were more right than I was, and we have discontinued our path. We were counting up, phase 1, phase 2, and then we reset, okay? But we have not done that yet. I was going to say before, the total 3 indicator is the total market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH. When we broke former all-time highs last cycle, that's when we are on our way to alt season. We got to that point 3 times and rejected, okay? But once we start to break above, and this could be a good area for a base or support, we would probably have our alt season as soon as we start breaking above that. And as far as Bitcoin, just for comparison, remember how I talked about 2024 being the high in March? Okay, yes, technically it was, but you see the candle bodies, this is why we do Heikin-Ashi. We never truly closed above. Same with total 3. Yes, we got some wicks above, okay, but we want to see candle bodies close above, and we have not done that yet. So in a nutshell, in a 35-minute video, that is my thesis, my hypothesis, as far as where the crypto market is today. I believe we are being stretched. We have inflationary monetary policy coming back, bubbles that can go on longer than people think. I believe the AI bubble is going to be as big as, if not greater, than the dot-com bubble, and that will give us time to stretch our returns later into this cycle. Again, we didn't have an alt season or anything in 2013. 2017, it came after the top. 2021, our alt season came before the 4-year cycle. Maybe this time we are getting our alt season a little bit later, and that would be just fine. Again, I believe that's what the log regression shows. And if you're doubting, like, what, alt season comes after Bitcoin tops? Yes, when Bitcoin tops and is too expensive to buy, that is when we get the rotation with Bitcoin dominance. I'll show you that real quick and then we'll end the video. So, thank you for watching one of these longer videos. I feel the need to put these out, just explaining the overall macro. Here we'll show Bitcoin. So Bitcoin tops with dominance, okay? Bitcoin tops close to where we had the dominance top, okay? It was last time right here. And then from the Bitcoin top, which is right here, we had this rotation. So now we can just throw on our number one altcoin, Ethereum. Where did Ethereum top? Well, it topped as we were getting that rotation with Bitcoin dominance, okay? And that's when our altcoins top. Ethereum topped as Bitcoin dominance rotated. We have not had that yet. We had Bitcoin dominance come up, and it came up to some really important levels, and it could go up again. But overall, the divergence is negative. We can show that with the MACD. Okay, the MACD, the trend has been negative. We are now in negative territory. So even a positive move, we are going to get a lower high. No doubt about that. As far as the RSIs are concerned, here I am talking, even though I said I was going to be done. You can see how we've had bearish divergence overall in this RSI. You can even just look at the bases too. You see how the bases are getting lower. We can do that with the peaks as well. The peaks overall have been trending lower as well. So we have bearish divergence in both ways. Lower highs, lower lows, ascending price. This is coming down. All right, the stochastic, we can take a look at this through a number of different trends. I like this one on the monthly. We see how the stochastic double bottoms out, okay? And this was showing us bearish divergence before Bitcoin dominance played out. This one, we had a little bit of bearish divergence. Actually, it's more one-to-one. But again, a double bottom. We just had one bottom, okay? I think we're going to get a relief rally, okay? Maybe we'll get as high as 50, and then on the second one down, that's when we could see the rotation. And that would line up. A lot of things are pointing kind of to April, May. We'll see what happens. I'm not here to say April's going to be alt season, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do another prediction video like I did this year. Speaking of which, I'm going to have to revisit that prediction video, see how much I got right and wrong. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. And yeah, that's my thesis, my theory. The structures, the charts, they have not changed or broken down or have said that we've deviated from this. If anything, we are in a 2019 style scenario right now. Have a wonderful Wednesday and take care.